All right, let's get more now on this. Tony Badran joins us now from New York City. He is a research fellow with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, which is a Washington, D.C. based think tank which focuses on international affairs, and international terrorism is one of their areas of expertise. So, Tony, if I can ask you this, the Iraqi government making a request for U.S. strikes on these militants, what do you make of this? I mean, it sounds fine in theory, but actually being able to carry these kind of attacks out, surgical pinpoint attacks without killing innocent civilians, is a tall order.
Absolutely, and I mean, even the operational considerations aside, there are also political and strategic issues at play, both within Iraq, but also beyond Iraq in terms of the regional alignments and balance of power, in terms of what it would mean for the United States to intervene on the side of an Iranian asset that is widely loathed not only by the Sunnis of Iraq, but also by the Sunni Arab and non-Arab, like Turkey, allies of the United States in the region, as well as the Kurdish regional government in Iraq itself. All of these components and players want the Prime Minister Maliki to be replaced. And so the United States coming de facto on the side of his government right now, beyond the operational issues, carries a big political sort of symbolism.
Let's talk about Iraq's capabilities as well, if we can, because, you know, this is a government that has been well equipped by the United States. Billions and billions of dollars have been poured into the military, yet in certain cases the Iraqi military, for a number of different reasons, cut and run in certain battles with ISIS. Are they able to defend the country themselves, or without the help of the Americans or perhaps the Iranians, will this country collapse in on itself?
It's unclear. I don't think necessarily the entire country, I mean, the advance of the Sunni elements, both ISIS and non-ISIS, I don't know if necessarily they can reach deep into southern Iraq the way they crept through the Sunni provinces of the country, where the military as well as the security forces of the central government are either A, penetrated, or B, really don't feel that they have a stake to sit there and fight. That's also on top of the fact that, you know, the idea of state institutions in the Levant more broadly is a very flimsy thing when we talk about it. And we see it very much so that the Iraqi government is relying on Shiite militias who are, ironically, the same militias that were killing American soldiers when the U.S. was still in Iraq. So it becomes a very heavily sectarian thing, but it's not just locally sectarian. These are militias that are trained, equipped, and armed by Iran. So it becomes very much a regional issue as well.
Tony, while we've got you here, I want to talk about some of the divisions that exist in this country. We have a map here that we're going to show to our viewers, and you really see how this country is divided. You see the Sunni-dominated region here. This is where ISIS is popular in certain pockets, certainly where they've taken a big chunk of the country. Iraqi Kurdistan in the north, which is effectively almost, as you know, Tony, its own country in a lot of ways, has its own defense force, its own oil resources, its own government, very stable and has been since the Gulf War in the early 90s. And then you have this huge Shia-dominated region down here in the south, borders Iran, of course. Is it possible you could see a situation in which Iraq, Tony, would split into three separate countries?
It's possible. Everything is possible. Is it probable? I don't know yet at this point. I mean, this is a country in the throes of warfare, civil war. So what realities that exist within civil war, whether they will solidify and continue into the future once the civil war situation is resolved, is unclear. I mean, let's go back in history. Let's say to Lebanon in the 1970s, 80s, and when that country had its own civil war, and it's also divided along sectarian lines, and everybody at that time thought that the existing sectarian enclaves would consolidate into de facto partition. It didn't happen. So whether there are a lot of factors that have to do with regional players and international players that will determine whether Iraq will indeed partition or not. So far, there's still, even the Sunnis, the non-ISIS Sunnis at least, are not saying that they want partition. All they're saying is that they want much more, a better government, a more inclusive government, and less sectarian government, and they want Maliki gone. That's their principal condition.
Tony, thanks so much for taking time to talk to us and help us make some sense of what is a very complicated situation. We appreciate getting you on.